Invade Earth? The alien delegate says you must be out of your mind. The Galactic Council was a place of power, where millions of years of evolution and countless wars had culminated in the fragile peace of an empire that spanned across the stars. But in the opulent hall, where dignitaries and generals from hundreds of species convened, one statement echoed like a slap across the face of the galaxy. It was the alien delegate's voice, rough and confident, loud enough to silence the whispers of the assembly. You want to invade Earth? Are you out of your minds? A ripple of disbelief ran through the vast chamber. Representatives from dozens of alien races, some proud and dignified, others strange and monstrous, turned to stare at the lone delegate who had dared challenge the very foundation of their collective wisdom. The council had deliberated for weeks on Earth's fate, and most agreed. Humanity was an unworthy target, a low-hanging fruit ripe for conquest. But this delegate, who had walked through the fire of galactic wars, seemed unshaken. The alien, known only as Zarin, was an imposing figure, tall, armored in sleek black exoskeletons with tendrils of smoke curling around them. They had once been the supreme commander of a now-destroyed empire, their species nearly obliterated by an unknown force. Yet here they stood, the lone voice of caution. The once feared conqueror was now the galaxy's greatest skeptic. You think it will be easy, Zarin continued, their voice like gravel scraping against metal, that Earth is just another planet waiting to be harvested. But let me tell you something you will regret forgetting. Humanity is not like the other worlds you've crushed. This primitive species has something you cannot fathom. The rest of the delegates sat frozen, exchanging uneasy glances. The rest of the galaxy believed Earth to be weak, an insignificant, backwater planet unworthy of serious consideration. But now, as the moment of conquest grew nearer, Zarin's warning hung in the air like a storm cloud, one that would not dissipate. The old conqueror's gaze swept over the gathering. I was there at the edge of a galaxy, they continued, voice rising with intensity. My people fell to them. The stories you've heard, their supposed lack of advanced technology, are false. What humanity has is far worse. What they possess is not power. It is something darker, something the galaxy has never faced. You will regret underestimating them. The room remained silent for a long moment, the only sound being the faint hum of the massive structure's artificial gravity generators. The other delegates shifted uncomfortably, but none dared speak out against the words of one of the galaxy's most feared warriors. General Drac, a hulking alien with 3 heads and 10 arms, leaned forward, his voice booming. Enough, Zarin. You speak of Earth as if it is an unstoppable force. We've studied them for centuries. Their weapons are primitive. Their fleets are outdated. The only thing they have going for them is sheer numbers, but even that won't be enough. Zarin met Drac's gaze, their tendrils shifting in the air, an unspoken challenge. You underestimate them, Zarin said, their tone cutting through the tension like a blade. You cannot see it because you don't know what they've kept hidden. Do you think their wars, their chaos, their conflicts are weaknesses? You couldn't be more wrong. Humanity thrives on adversity. You think you're invincible because you've never faced anything like them. Drac huffed and shifted in his seat. We've conquered civilizations far older than humanity. What makes them so special? Zarin paused. They are survivors. When a species reaches the point of survival against insurmountable odds, when they have nothing left to lose, they become something else entirely. Earth's warriors have faced death in every conceivable form. And now they stand ready. The room fell into an eerie quiet. Even the most jaded of the council members couldn't deny the truth in Zarin's words. But still, the thought of halting the conquest of Earth seemed absurd. Humanity was weak. At least, that's what they had believed. You would have us turn away from Earth, then? General Drac scoffed. You speak of danger, but there's no sign of it. The galaxy has moved on from their petty squabbles. We've moved past them. Zarin's voice lowered to a growl. You will see. The galaxy has no idea what it's about to awaken. Invading Earth will be the biggest mistake this council will ever make. And with that, the council's greatest fear, Earth, was finally placed on the table. Every word Zarin spoke struck at the heart of what the galaxy thought they knew. The war for Earth had just begun, but it wasn't going to play out the way they thought. The Delegate's warning hung in the air, unheeded yet unavoidable. This wasn't just a battle for a planet. This was a war for survival. You've been looking in all the wrong places. The words echoed in General Sarah Klein's mind long after the meeting ended. Earth was just another target to the Galactic Council. Yet Zarin, the one alien who had seen the true threat, warned them all. The Council ignored the caution, but Klein could not. Something about that warning gnawed at her. She was a strategist, not an ideologue, and there was no room for complacency. Earth had to be prepared, if not for an invasion, then for what lay hidden within their past. She couldn't ignore Zarin's words. She sat alone in her command office, a darkened room filled with the soft hum of active consoles. The light from the map projection illuminated her face, revealing a hard-set jaw and narrowed eyes. She stared at the map of Earth's global defense network, tracing the digital lines with a finger. But it wasn't the coordinates or the defenses she was concerned with. The truth was deeper, older than anything the Council had planned. Earth wasn't ready for what was coming. Not yet. The Council's plan to invade Earth was nearly a certainty. But as she leaned back in her chair, Klein knew there was something they hadn't accounted for. There was no record of any advanced technology that could threaten the entire galaxy. No hidden fleet, no secret weapon buried beneath Earth's surface. At least, that was what every data probe said. But those records were incomplete. Klein had spent weeks digging through old intelligence reports, classified documents, everything the military and government had on Earth's history. But the deeper she went, the more gaps she found. Gaps too wide to be mere oversights. Entire sections were missing. Data wiped clean from systems that had been running for centuries. That wasn't normal. The Council had made the same mistake all empires made when they considered humanity. They saw only what was in front of them. They failed to understand the single most defining feature of the human race, the ability to endure, to rise when crushed, to fight when hopeless, to bury what needed to be hidden, and to rebuild from the ashes of their own destruction. Klein's eyes narrowed on a particular piece of data, a series of encrypted transmissions sent out from Earth's first deep space expedition, many centuries ago. At the time, it was just a routine exploration mission. The transmissions, filled with scientific data and mundane updates, ended abruptly. But before they ceased, there was one final message. Asterisk warning, they know. We will never return. Asterisk. That transmission wasn't from any species the Council had identified. It didn't match any known alien language or encryption codes. It was human. The only conclusion Klein could draw was that this was a warning from Earth's first explorers, an expedition that encountered something far worse than any alien species could imagine. Klein's thoughts raced. If what the transmission implied was true, then Earth was sitting on something the galaxy had overlooked, a secret that no one had discovered for centuries. She tapped her fingers against the desk, then ordered her team to begin an immediate search for this lost expedition's last known location. Whatever they had encountered, it had been hidden from the public, buried deep in Earth's military archives. But there were still too many questions. If Earth's first explorers had uncovered something dangerous enough to wipe out their entire crew, why hadn't anyone noticed? Why hadn't the Council's most advanced intelligence systems detected this anomaly? It didn't make sense. Or maybe it was never meant to be understood. As she sat there, reflecting on the gravity of her findings, Klein's thoughts were interrupted by a sharp chime from her terminal. It was an encrypted message from an unknown source. The message contained no subject, no sender name, just a set of coordinates. The coordinates pointed to a remote location deep in the Arctic Circle, in a place no one had bothered to look for centuries. This couldn't be a coincidence. Without hesitation, Klein sent an encrypted order to dispatch a reconnaissance team to investigate. If what she suspected was true, then this would be the key to understanding Earth's true role in the galaxy. The next day, as Klein prepared for the mission, She reviewed the mission logs from Earth's earliest explorers. The more she read, the clearer it became. Humanity had a much darker, more dangerous past than the galaxy could ever fathom. The so-called primitive species had known death in ways no other race had. They had built entire civilizations only to tear them down, to forget, and rebuild again. What they had learned along the way was something the rest of the galaxy would never understand. At the same time, across the galaxy, the Council's fleet continued its preparations for the invasion of Earth. Every fleet admiral, every strategist, believed it was a simple conquest. Earth's defenses were primitive, and its people barely capable of holding off an invasion of their scale. But the Council had no idea what humanity had survived, no idea what it had learned. And by the time they realized it, it would be far too late. Klein stared at the final transmission from Earth's first explorers one last time. We will never return. What had they encountered out there? Whatever it was, it had changed everything. And soon, the galaxy would find out. Klein clenched her fist. Earth was about to face a war like no other. The enemy was not who they expected, and the stakes were far higher than anyone knew. It was only a matter of time before the truth came to light. The enemy of my enemy might just be my ally. General Sarah Klein had always understood the value of alliances in warfare, but this was something else entirely. As Earth faced the looming threat of invasion, a strange proposal landed on her desk, an offer of help from the most unlikely sources. Alien races that had long been oppressed by the Galactic Council, who once feared humanity's rise, were now willing to stand beside Earth. It didn't make sense. But Klein had learned to trust her instincts, and her instincts told her there was something vital here, something she couldn't afford to ignore. The message was simple, yet shocking in its implications. Asterisk, join us, and together we can stand against the Council. We know what you're up against. Let us help you fight back. Asterisk. Klein knew these races. Some of them had been subjects of the Council for centuries, living in servitude under the weight of the Empire's tyranny. Others, like the Drexians, were a warrior species whose once glorious empire had been shattered by the Council's expansion. The last thing she had expected was for them to offer assistance. But the invitation was not one of charity. It was born from a shared fear. These alien races had been watching Earth for years, gathering intelligence on humanity's resistance to invasion. What Klein had failed to see, what Zarin had hinted at, was that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their military, but their unyielding will to survive. Earth was the only planet in the galaxy that had repeatedly overcome extinction. This truth had not gone unnoticed. As Klein sat in her secure office, a representative from the Dracian Federation appeared through the hollow communication screen. His face, scarred from countless battles, was a testament to the brutality of his species' past. His name was Kelrak, and he spoke with the weight of experience. General Klein, Kelrak's voice was deep, his tone laced with determination. We've watched your people for years. We've seen the destruction the Council has wrought across the stars. Your fight for survival is not just about your planet. It's about the galaxy's future. The Council cannot be allowed to continue their reign of terror. We've paid the price for their greed. Now we fight with you. Klein didn't hesitate. She had known for some time that Earth couldn't win this war alone. The Council was too vast, too powerful. But a coalition of alien races, fighting alongside humanity, could be the key to tipping the scales. However, she also knew the risks. These were not friendly nations. These were desperate beings, each with their own agenda. But sometimes, desperation bred strength. What's the catch? Klein asked, her voice cool but firm. Kelrak's face remained unreadable. We will help you, but we expect one thing in return, your commitment to the cause. The Council won't stop with Earth. If we fail, they'll turn their attention to us once again. We need Earth's promise that when this is over, you won't abandon us. It was a reasonable demand. Earth had been alone for too long, a species left to fend for itself. Now, with the possibility of a galactic war on the horizon, alliances were no longer a matter of diplomacy. They were a matter of survival. Klein nodded, her decision made. We will not abandon you. Together, we stand or fall. With that, the alliance was forged. Earth would receive the assistance it needed, but the cost was clear. The war for Earth would become a war for the galaxy. Over the next few days, other races pledged their support. The Vrex, a species known for their advanced engineering and resourceful technology, offered their ships and scientists. The Echelon, a race of telepathic beings, shared their knowledge of the Council's strategic vulnerabilities. And the Urin, a brutal and resourceful species from the Outer Rim, provided soldiers willing to fight and die beside humanity. Klein felt a surge of hope. The stakes were enormous, but for the first time in her life, she wasn't facing this war alone. But as the days wore on, the reality of the situation set in. Each species brought something unique to the table: technology, knowledge, strength. But they all carried scars of past betrayals, of losing everything to the Galactic Council. This wasn't just a coalition of convenience. It was a fragile web of desperation, built on shared hatred of the Council and fear of extinction. Klein knew she had to tread carefully. These were not allies in the traditional sense. They were comrades in arms, united by a common cause. But at the first sign of weakness, they could turn on each other. The future of the galaxy rested on a razor's edge. As she sat in her war room, surrounded by the holographic maps of Earth's defenses, Klein felt the weight of the decision settle heavily on her shoulders. She had made an alliance, but it was one built on trust that had yet to be earned. The coming battle would be the true test of their unity. The Council might have underestimated Earth, but humanity's allies had underestimated Earth's allies. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving that the galaxy had made a grave mistake in ignoring the power of humanity. And soon, the galaxy would learn just how wrong they were. They thought humanity's unpredictability was a weakness. They were wrong. The first shots had already been fired in the war for Earth's survival. Galactic Council ships, massive and heavily armed, now patrolled the outer rim of the solar system, their weaponry poised to strike. The Council believed they had Earth cornered, that the human race would cower in the face of overwhelming power. What they didn't account for was the unpredictability of human strategy, a trait that had kept humanity on the fringes of the galaxy for centuries. General Sarah Klein had studied the Council's tactics and military doctrine. Theirs was a calculated, methodical approach, one built on overwhelming force and predictable battle plans. They relied on their superior technology and the sheer might of their numbers. But Klein had learned long ago that humanity didn't play by those rules. If Earth was going to survive, they would need to fight like they had everything to lose, because they did. Inside the war room, the holographic projection of Earth's defense grid hovered above the table, flanked by the leaders of the newly formed alliance. Klein's mind raced as she analyzed the enemy's position. The Council had been methodical in their advance, each step a move toward Earth's destruction. But that was their mistake. They had underestimated the human factor, the sheer will to survive that no algorithm or tactical analysis could predict. "General," one of her aides said, interrupting her thoughts, "the Council's fleet is moving into position for an orbital strike. We've got hours before they reach the launch zone." Klein's gaze hardened. The countdown had begun. But rather than panic, she felt a surge of focus. They had no time to waste, but they still had a chance. The human resistance wasn't about to roll over. Not this time. She turned to her allies, the alien leaders who had joined Earthside. "We're not waiting for them to strike first. We'll hit them before they can finish their final approach." The room fell silent as the implications of Klein's words sunk in. The Council's military doctrine was based on overwhelming superiority, but it relied on predictability. They had expected Earth to hide, to regroup, and wait for their inevitable defeat. What they hadn't accounted for was the audacity of humanity's leadership. "We're moving fast," Klein said, as she adjusted the tactical map. "We're going to take the fight to them. They think they can predict us. They can't." The plan was simple. A surprise attack on the Council's fleet, one that would strike at their most vulnerable point. Earth's special forces, already battle-hardened and stealthy, would make the first move. Using alien technology provided by the Directions, they had developed a fleet of cloaked ships capable of infiltrating enemy lines without detection. The mission was high risk, but it was their only chance. In a matter of hours, Klein's forces had mobilized. The human fleet was joined by the Directions, their advanced ships blending seamlessly into the darkness of space. The Vrex had also contributed a battalion of engineers to provide backup, and the Echelon, using their telepathic abilities, would coordinate the movements of the fleet, ensuring their surprise attack hit at exactly the right moment. "We strike as one," Klein said to her commanders. "No hesitation. We will show the Council that we are not their playthings. This is our home." As the ships moved into position, Klein's mind remained focused. The battle ahead would be unlike any humanity had ever fought, and it wasn't just the strength of their numbers that would determine victory. It was their will to survive. The Council ships were arrayed in a traditional formation, massive warships positioned in a defensive perimeter around their flagship. They expected a standard confrontation, the kind they had crushed on countless other worlds. But humanity, along with their unlikely alien allies, had a different plan. As the first of Earth's ships broke from the formation and engaged, the Council reacted too slowly. The cloaked vessels, gliding undetected through the vast expanse of space, struck the Council fleet with brutal efficiency. Earth's forces unleashed a barrage of precision strikes on the Council's most vulnerable spots: engines, communication arrays, and weapon systems. Every shot was calculated, every move executed with ruthless efficiency. But it wasn't just the technology or the tactics that caught the Council off guard. It was the sheer audacity of the attack, the unrelenting will of humanity, the refusal to be intimidated. Where other races might have hesitated or second-guessed, humanity acted with a certainty that only comes from a species fighting for its very existence. As the battle raged on, the Council's ships scrambled to respond, but the damage had already been done. The surprise attack had crippled their fleet. Earth's forces, using every ounce of ingenuity and raw determination, had inflicted a blow the Council had never seen coming. Klein stood at the helm of her command ship, watching the battle unfold on the holographic display. The Council had underestimated humanity, just as they had underestimated the power of their alliances. This fight wasn't just about brute strength, it was about something far more dangerous: human creativity and resolve. In the midst of the chaos, Klein's voice crackled over the comms. "Keep pushing forward. This is just the beginning. We're not done yet." The battle for Earth was far from over, but humanity had just delivered a message the Council would never forget. You may have the numbers, the weapons, and the power, but humanity has something you can't control: the will to fight, to survive, and to win. The tide of war had turned. And for the first time in history, the galaxy's greatest conquerors were learning the hard truth. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated. Victory is never without its price. The battle for Earth had been won, but the cost was staggering. The Galactic Council's fleets, once the epitome of superiority, were now shattered remnants, their once mighty ships drifting lifeless in space. Earth's forces had emerged victorious, but the cost of that victory was far greater than anyone had anticipated. General Sarah Klein stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the debris fields scattered across the void of space. The holographic map of Earth's defense grid was still active, but it was more a reminder of what had been lost than a symbol of triumph. Earth had struck a decisive blow against the Council, but in the process, humanity had revealed just how fragile their fragile alliances truly were. The alliance with the Directions, the Vrex, and the Echelon had been essential in turning the tide of the battle. But those races had their own motives, long-buried grudges, and centuries of suffering under the Council's reign had fueled their desire for revenge. Now, with the battle won, the uneasy truth settled in. The alliance was fragile, and the promises made on the battlefield might not hold once the fighting stopped. Klein's mind raced as she sifted through the reports flooding her terminal. While Earth's victory had crushed the Council's immediate plans, it had also triggered a series of events no one had fully anticipated. With the Council on the brink of collapse, the remaining factions began to shift. seeking to exploit the power vacuum left behind. Old rivalries were resurfacing, and Klein knew that Earth was far from safe. In the aftermath of the battle, even the alien races who had fought alongside them were beginning to question whether their future lay with humanity or against it. A message blinked on her terminal, an encrypted communication from Kelrak, the Dracien leader who had been one of Earth's most vocal supporters. Klein opened it cautiously, knowing that the coming weeks would determine the future of their fragile alliance. "General," Kelrak's voice crackled through the comms. "The Council is not finished yet. We are too exposed. The Vrex and Echelon are already preparing to negotiate for more power. They are starting to question whether their loyalty to Earth is enough to guarantee their survival. We need to act quickly. If we don't, we risk losing everything we've gained." Klein's heart sank. She had known this was coming, but hearing it from Kelrak made it real. The alliance was already starting to fracture, and the worst part was that Earth might be caught in the middle. "We can't afford infighting," Klein said, her voice steady despite the tension gnawing at her. "We need to find a way to unite these factions under a common banner. If we don't, the Council will have won in the end." The message ended abruptly, leaving Klein with a heavy decision. She couldn't allow Earth to become just another pawn in the power struggle between alien races. But what choice did they have? She knew the price of victory was never clear until the aftermath, and now she understood that every move from here on out would come with consequences. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, the mood was no better. The cities were in ruins, and the loss of life was beyond anything humanity had ever experienced. The war had cost them more than just ships and soldiers. It had shattered the fragile peace that had held Earth together for so long. The loss was not only material, it was deeply personal. In the streets of New York, the sight of Earth's military personnel, wearing somber expressions as they walked through the devastated city, was a grim reminder of the price of war. The civilian casualties were in the millions, and the emotional toll on the human population would take generations to heal. Klein had seen enough to know that the scars left by this war would never fully fade. But amid the grief and chaos, there was a stirring of something else: determination. The human spirit had endured far worse, and Klein had no doubt that humanity would rebuild. The question was, would the galaxy allow them to? Earth had proven itself a force to be reckoned with. But as the days passed, the power vacuum left by the collapse of the Council began to attract other forces. The remaining factions, alien empires eager to capitalize on the Council's weakness, circled Earth like vultures. And then there was the Delegate. Zarin, who had warned them of the Council's ruthless nature, had disappeared after the battle. Klein had no idea where they had gone, or if they had played a deeper role in the events leading to the victory. But she knew one thing for certain: Zarin's words had not been hollow. The war for Earth was far from over. "Victory is never without its price," Klein repeated to herself, staring out the viewport at the dark expanse of space. Earth had won, but only just. And now, the real battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin. The Council had been a threat, but the galaxy's true danger was only just emerging. The battle wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The war for Earth was over, or so the galaxy thought. General Sarah Klein stood on the bridge of her flagship, staring into the infinite void of space, a quiet sense of unease gnawing at her. The Galactic Council had been defeated. Its fleet was shattered. But that victory had come at a price. Earth had survived, but the galaxy had changed forever. As the first rays of peace began to break through the darkness, the alliance that had once been forged in the heat of battle now teetered on the edge of collapse. The Drexians, the Vrex, and the Echelon all had fought beside humanity, but now they were starting to question their loyalties. The power vacuum left by the collapse of the Council had created a dangerous new dynamic, one where old rivalries began to resurface. Humanity had proven itself a formidable force in the galaxy, but Klein couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was only just beginning. The Council's defeat had not brought peace. It had set the stage for a new war, one that would not be fought with weapons, but with alliances, betrayals, and power struggles. The stakes were higher than ever, and this time, Earth might not have the luxury of choosing its allies. The first signs of the new conflict emerged in the aftermath of the battle. The Vrex, once grateful for Earth's assistance, began making demands. Their warriors had fought valiantly alongside humanity, but now they wanted more. They had lost everything to the Council's expansion, and they expected Earth to repay their loyalty. But their demands were not what Klein had expected. They were not asking for simple protection or resources. They wanted power. They wanted control over key systems, influence over the new galactic order. The Echelon were no different. They had contributed their telepathic abilities to the fight, coordinating the fleet's movements and ensuring the success of every mission. But now, with the Council gone, they began to push for more autonomy, for a seat at the head of the galactic table. They were no longer content to be the silent strategists behind the scenes. They wanted to be recognized as equals, with their own stake in the galaxy's future. Klein had never anticipated the alliance falling apart so quickly. The unity that had once been forged in the fires of war was crumbling under the weight of ambition and fear. These races had fought beside humanity, but now, with the Council's collapse, they saw an opportunity to seize more power, to become the dominant force in the galaxy. And then there was the most unexpected twist of all, the reappearance of Zarin, the delegate who had once warned them all about the dangers of the Council. Klein had thought Zarin was lost to the depths of space, a casualty of the war. But the delegate had returned, alive, and with a new message. "We are not done." Zarin's voice echoed through the comms, cold and direct. The Council's collapse was merely the beginning. You think you've defeated them, but the real threat is still out there. Klein's heart skipped a beat. "What are you talking about?" Zarin's face appeared on the screen, their expression unreadable. "You're not the only ones vying for power. The galaxy has been watching Earth closely. Your victory over the Council has sparked a dangerous shift in the balance of power. You've set off a chain reaction, and now forces more dangerous than anything you faced before are moving toward Earth." Klein stared at the screen, her mind racing. "What do you mean? Who's coming?" Zarin's voice grew softer, almost as if warning Klein to brace herself. "There are factions in the galaxy, factions that have long been in the shadows. They've watched the rise and fall of the Council, and they see Earth as the next piece in their game. They want Earth, but not for the reasons you think. They're not after your resources, your technology, or your people. They want something else, a secret buried deep in your planet's past." Klein felt a chill run down her spine. She had known Earth's history was complicated, but she had never imagined that something so dangerous could be hidden away, waiting for the right moment to resurface. "What are they looking for?" Klein asked, her voice barely a whisper. Zarin hesitated, the silence stretching between them. "I don't know. But I do know that if Earth is to survive this, you'll need to make difficult choices. The alliances you've forged will be tested, and you will have to decide who you can trust." The transmission ended, leaving Klein alone with her thoughts. She turned away from the screen, her mind reeling. Earth's future was no longer in its own hands. The galaxy had shifted, and now a new and more dangerous game was being played. The allies who had stood beside humanity in the fight against the Council were no longer guaranteed friends. The Directions, the Vrex, the Echelon, they each had their own agendas, their own desires for power. Humanity was once again caught in the middle of a war they hadn't started. And this time, the stakes were higher than ever. Klein knew one thing for certain. The fight for Earth was far from over. The galaxy's greatest challenge had yet to come, and if humanity was to survive, it would need to face its greatest test yet. It was no longer about defending Earth. It was about securing its place in a galaxy that was shifting beneath their feet.